This is an amazing survival story, an amazing story of heroism.
As I touched down, I realized something was wrong. I had been beaten, tortured, and escaped.
The Vietnamese kept us in conditions of solitary confinement. If we were caught communicating, it was an instant beating.
Now I'm going to have to face the consequences for what I did.
It's a truly remarkable story. It should be told to every American.
I had been released as a prisoner about 2 months when I received an invitation to the White House to a reception that President Nixon was holding for the returned POWs from Vietnam. I had been a prisoner of war for 7 years, 10 months, and 7 days. I felt out of place because now I was in a civilian suit and the rest of them were in uniform. Across the room, I saw what I was sure was John McCain. I knew more about John McCain, and he knew more about me than probably any other person, but we had never met face to face.
It was the first reunion, really, of all of us, the returned POWs.
You know how this was.
A guy came up to me and looked at him and he said, "I'm Ernie Brace." And I thought, wow, it was such an emotional moment for me.
It's great. Thanks.
He and I have been through some very, very tough times, but I had never had a chance to see Ernie Brace until that day at the White House.
In May of 1965, I'm 33 years old. I'm living in Chiang Mai, Thailand with my wife and 4 boys. I'm a civilian pilot working for the CIA to supply personnel and ammunition into secret bases in Laos to fight the communists. Today's flight is an ordinary mission to deliver supplies to a government agent stationed high in the mountains of Laos. Once you cross the Mekong River, leaving Thailand, you're in enemy territory. The airstrip's cut right out of the jungle. As I made the approach, I didn't feel that there was anything out of the ordinary. I had no idea what would happen later that day and that it would be almost 8 years before I came back. As I touched down, I realized something was wrong. I hear what sounds like firecrackers. There was a heavy burst of gunfire and the bullets hit the windscreen. I'm thinking, I gotta get out of there. I looked off to the left and saw a North Vietnamese soldier with the rifle pointed directly at the aircraft. At that point, I know I'm not going to be able to get out of there. I get out of the aircraft and put my hands up. They had a piece of rope, looped the rope around my neck and tied a knot in it. And they pulled my arms down and tied my elbows behind my back. I felt that that's the end of it. They took me to a town held by the enemy. There's some bodies laying around. And I don't know if I'm going to come out of this alive. I was taken to a large bamboo and thatch hut. I had to climb a short ladder to get into the room. It's pretty dark, and as my eyes adjust to the light I see, there's a officer sitting behind a small desk. He asked me something in Vietnamese. I say, I am a civilian delivering supplies. The officer took my wallet and opened it. He took out the card which said that I was an American civilian working for the U.S. government. He said, I know you are part of the CIA. I deny this, and that's the only thing in the back of my mind. As long as I stick to the fact I am a civilian, then this Vietnamese officer won't have anything to accuse me of. He asked me my rank, and I repeat, civilian.
I'm a civilian pilot.
He suddenly stands up, and as he stands up, I see that he has a cane. He tells me, on your knees, put your hands on the desk.
America! I don't understand.
He lashes out with a cane and hits the desk right alongside my hand. I heard him swinging the cane the second time.
No, I'm not lying. I'm a civilian pilot. I'm a civilian pilot.
He yells something again at me,
America!
and he goes whack. I was startled again because I thought sure that he was going to hit me next. He said, you have not been answering the questions properly. You will now be punished.
Please, no.
The soldiers walked me over to an area where there was a small firing squad. I've had a fear in my heart. The officer said, will you confess now as to your rank? If I had confessed to being a spy, they would have every right to shoot me. So I said no. I'm a civilian delivering aid and supplies. The officer said something to him. They raised their rifles up to their shoulder. I looked him in the eye, and I thought, well, I can't go any further. This is it. This is probably the end of Ernie Brace. But then the officer said, we will not shoot you at this time. I couldn't believe it. It was just an enormous sense of relief. I guess I'll be spending some time as a prisoner. After 16 days of march, we stopped. There was a bamboo cage there. It is about 7 feet long, 2 feet wide, and 4 feet high. I thought, well, I hope they're not going to put me in there. And they tied my hands together and put me in the cage. I can't stand up in it. They tie my feet to the pole at the foot of the cage. My hands are tied and stretched flat across me. Finally, they took my neck rope and stretched it to the outside and tied it to a stake. So it was very painful. I thought it was a temporary situation, that I'd be there maybe 24 hours at the most. I had no idea how bad it was going to be. After 7 days of being in this cage, I realized that they're probably not taking me anyplace else for a while. Just sitting in a cage 24 hours a day and no exercise, no walking, no nothing, after a few weeks, your muscles begin to go away. I had lost 20 to 30 pounds. I developed ringworm. I had several blisters from animal bites, became festered. I realized if I don't try to get out of this cage, I'm gonna die here. After 6 weeks, they take me down to the stream to wash. I saw something glinting in the stream alongside of me. It was a piece of aluminum. I knew that if a pilot sees a flash of a mirror, he'll invariably investigate it. I had to have it. But if I'm caught by the guard, I'm sure I'll be beaten. I pick it up and get it back to my cage. The piece of aluminum is critical to signal aircraft once I can get far enough away from the camp. If I want to get out of here, it'll have to be after dark to make sure I'm not being seen. At night, my ropes are tied. The first thing I've got to work out is how to get out of these ropes. Each morning, I was taken out of the cage to use a hole in the ground. During the walk, I'm looking for things that might help me get loose from the ropes. I have picked up a couple pieces of bamboo and managed to smuggle them back into the cage. At night, I practice using them to loosen the ropes to where I can slip one hand out of the loop. I have to make sure that the guard is distracted and not watching me. If I get one hand out, then I can undo the neck rope. And if I undo the neck rope, I can sit up and undo my legs. I'm practicing every night until I'm doing this without thinking. The next step is to get out of the cage. The cage is held together with split bamboo that has been soaked in water and then twisted into a knot. Well, the guard is not paying any attention. I tried breaking some of them in order to make sure that I got an escape hole. I can rotate the bamboo until I felt the tie give. Breaking the ties to make the hole big enough for my shoulders to get through. I retied the bamboo ties so that they didn't suspect anything. I'm constantly worried about anybody seeing me, so it takes me a long time. After 11 months of captivity, I decided this is the night to go. I'm going to escape. The guards are distracted and not watching me. I reached up for the bamboo picks, which I had secreted into the thatch. I get my wrists untied using the pick. And then I untie my neck rope, lean forward and untie my foot rope. I hesitate for a while, just thinking of the guard behind me with a rifle. All you have to do would be fire through the cage and I'd be dead. To start pushing through the bars and the thatch. I stand and pull myself up and out of the cage. Now, there's no turning back. I'm going to go up that trail. I'm going to put as much distance between me and the cage as I can. But I know I cannot stay on the path because I'll be leaving a trail on it. So I head into the grass. I'm slipping and sliding through the elephant grass. The adrenaline pumping through my body drives me. When suddenly I can hear dogs and troops running behind me, I just stop moving altogether. I stay out of sight under the elephant grass. At that point is the most critical moment. I don't want to make a movement, not make any noise, and I am worried that dogs will sniff me out. I watch as they go by. And then disappear in the distance. The next day, the sun comes up. It's the happiest I've been for a long time. But I know that I'm not going to be able to travel much because of my legs. So I took some bright yellow banana leaves from a nearby tree to make the letter K. I sit in one corner with my mirror facing southwest and listen for aircraft. The weather is clear and warm. By afternoon, I've run out of water, and even though I haven't moved much, I'm still exhausted. It's getting dusk again, and I haven't heard any aircraft, which is my big disappointment. I'm thinking at that point, if I want to get out of here alive, I'm going to have to get some food and water soon. So I start down the hill. I finally break through and get to a point where I can see up ahead that there was a village of some sort. I stay out of sight and watch as these people go by. The risk is enormous, and if I'm seen by the wrong people, I'll be retaken as a captive. I'm walking very slowly, and I'm trying to see if there's anything under the eaves, when suddenly the door opens, and a woman steps out and looks around and sees me. I look at the woman and I froze. I say, I'm hungry.
Hungry?
She yells something. A soldier holding a rifle, runs out and looks at me, pointing his big rifle right straight at me. My only thought at that point is, damn, I didn't make it. They put me back in the cage. They have now wrapped it with barbed wire. They set me on the bedboard, swing me around, and put my feet into stocks, which are very heavy and bolted outside the cage. The bolt and the nut, they're made out of metal. It was becoming physically impossible to get out of there. However, I did not regret my escape attempt. I figured sooner or later the war would be over. I had no idea how big the war had become.
I was Lieutenant Commander in the United States Navy, flying an A-4 Skyhawk. I was flying in a first major strike into Hanoi in October of 1967. Hanoi was still, to this day, the most heavily defended place as far as surface-to-air missiles are concerned. There was lots of them in the air that day. I was hit and ejected. My chute barely opened as my feet hit the water in a place they call the Western Lake in Hanoi. The Vietnamese swam out, pulled me in, and the people were very angry. I was bayoneted and my shoulder broken. The Vietnamese military came up and took me to what we know of as the Hanoi Hilton, the Wallow prison. I was in very bad shape. The Vietnamese believed I was dying, and then they found out through Western news media that I was the son of a high-ranking admiral. They took me to the hospital. They did give me blood, but other than that, treatment wasn't exactly ideal. What they wanted was propaganda. They wanted war crimes confessions. They wanted condemnation of our country. They wanted people to speak against our country and the war. I refused. The Vietnamese put me in solitary confinement. I'd been through some very, very tough times. But other Americans who had been captured were being treated in the most unspeakable fashion.
I had been in the cage almost a year since I tried my first escape. I spent 24 hours a day in the stocks, and I'm losing the use of my legs. I can't walk anymore. I can't get to the hole in the ground without some help. If I stay in these stocks very long, I won't be able to use my legs at all. I know that I can't walk very far, but I can crawl. And to me at this point, it's better to die out there free than to be held in this cage indefinitely. I will have to find a way to get out of the stocks. The bolt is on the outside of the cage. I've got to find something to loosen the bolt with so I can get it off. I need to make a wrench. The only conceivable type of wrench I could make would be a piece of wire to go around the bolt. When the guard's not looking, I pull in a strand of barbed wire and start working it to break off a 8 or 10 inch piece. If he catches me breaking off a piece of wire, I'm sure I'll be beaten again. It takes me 2 or 3 days to get a piece of wire long enough. I put the wire down into the bedboard in a crack, and I'm able to bend it at a sharp angle to make a 6-sided wrench. In the meantime, I'm breaking the bamboo ties and stays at the side of the cage. After a couple weeks, I finally have the means to attempt another escape. I untie my neck rope and sit up. I get my little wrench out of the thatch. I lean over and get a hold of the nut and start twisting the bolt. I knew the second that the bolt fell that I was going to have to go, because they would know that I was taking the stocks apart. I turn around, check the guard again, and I hear it fall. And I know that there's no turning back. I lift the stocks, which are heavier than I thought. I managed to get my feet out. I then roll over on my knees, push my head and shoulders out through the hole, hands down on the ground, pull myself the rest of the way out. My legs are weak and don't want to hold me, so I just crawl off into the woods. The path has got a slope on it. It's slippery and wet, and I know if I try and stand, I'm going to fall. I've gotten 25 or 30 feet from the cage, and my hand slips. Suddenly, I'm rolling down the hill, crashing through the undergrowth. I'm making a lot of noise, and I land on a path at the bottom. I can hear the guards from up above near the cage running. I'm too weak to even try and resist. I know better. Now I'm going to have to go back and face the consequences for what I did. The next morning, I looked around and there was a couple men that were digging a hole. I had no idea of what they intended to do at that point. These guys were mean. I was worried that they were going to do something drastic to me. They grabbed me and they dragged me up to the hole. They pushed me down into the hole, and they started putting the dirt back in. I could feel air sucking down around my chest and my back. When I squirmed a little bit, he whacked me across the shoulder with a cane that he's carrying. They keep shoveling it in. When they get up almost to my neck with the dirt, they stop. I'm having a hard time breathing. I was scared that they were going to let me die in the hole. On the morning of the 8th day, I saw the officer approaching with the 2 men with a shovel. And they started digging me out. I don't think I've slept since they put me into the hole. I can't feel my body. I had no idea how painful it would be. I slumped sideways, and eventually they pulled me right out of the dirt. I couldn't walk. They had to carry me. I was numb from the neck down. Almost a year later, I'm still partially paralyzed. I would think about what muscles I was attempting to use, but nothing seemed to be happening. I can't manipulate my fingers, so I have to eat with a stick, more or less shove the food into my mouth. The guards no longer want to take me out of the cage, and when I urinated or defecated, I just did it between the slats of the bamboo in the cage. And that thing stunk really bad. I could smell it. And I feel like I've hit rock bottom. It's getting close to Christmas of 1967, and I realize it's my youngest son's birthday. I think about my sons and the fact that I'm paralyzed, and I probably won't come out of this alive, so why even live any longer? I try to choke myself on the neck rope, and I pull down as hard as I can until I feel myself gagging. It's choking me. And I pull harder and pull and pull. And I end up passing out. They opened up a door and just sort of dumped me into a concrete floor. Officer told me there's to be no talking, no noises on the wall, no whistling.
We punish you!
Any communications will severely punishable. I was locked in for the night. I think of my family more than I had in the past. I don't know when I'll see them again, wondering where they're at and what they're doing and how the boys are growing up. I seem to be into a slump, a bad slump of mental depression. Suddenly, I hear someone tap on the wall.
I had been in solitary confinement for approximately a year and a half when I heard noise in the cell next to mine. The Vietnamese knew that if we organized, we resisted. And so if we were caught communicating, it was an instant beating. But I was ready to take the downside of getting caught communicating, because that was a way of showing the Vietnamese that they couldn't control everything in our lives.
I heard it again. I didn't do anything. I didn't trust anybody. I thought maybe there was a guard in the next cell, and he was tapping on the wall in order to get me into trouble. The risk is enormous, and I couldn't take the chance to be put into another cage. I was thinking many things, and one of them was that I could be punished for responding. So I lay there for a while, and I hear it again. I thought about the rhythm, and suddenly I recognized it. Shave and a haircut. Most of us that grew up in the 30s, 40s, 50s knew the shave and a haircut because we either saw it on stage or we saw it in the old movies. It was really an American thing, so there had to be an American next door.
A period of time elapsed, and I kept tapping on the wall, but there was no answer.
I hesitate for a while, but the prospect of being able to communicate with another American after 3.5 years was very exciting. I just softly tapped 2 bits on the wall.
Finally, I got an answer. Well, I was glad. I thought I'd have somebody to tap on the wall too, and hopefully to converse.
The person on the other side of the wall started tapping rapidly. I had no idea what he was trying to tell me with the rapid tapping. I thought to myself, it has to be some type of code.
We used a tap code, which is a very simple way of tapping out letters.
Thinking maybe it's the alphabet. So I start counting. I start saying A, B, C, D, E, so on. And I get P. The next letter was U. The next letter was T.
Put ear to wall.
I worked my way along the wall to where the thumping was coming from and put my ear up against the wall.
I was able to communicate by putting a cup on the wall and could talk through.
I heard a soft voice on the other side say, "If you hear me, buddy, knock 2 times." He said, "My name is McCain, John McCain."
I said, who are you? And he came back and said, my name is Ernie Brace. My name is Ernie Brace. Obviously, he was very emotional. I fully understood that, and we stopped talking.
That's the first American I've heard for more than 3.5 years, since I left my wife. It was a very emotional moment. John McCain brought me out of my low point. He made me feel better, both about myself and what might happen in the future.
I was so impressed and so moved by his story. It made my experience look like a day at the beach. And it was very helpful for me to have the chance to talk to him.
After a few months, I probably knew more about John than his mother or brother. When the door opens and a very mean-looking Vietnamese officer walks into the cell. They started inspecting the wall. The officer turned to me and said, "You have been communicating with other prisoners." And I shook my head no. He said, "Yes, other prisoners know your name." He said, "Who do you communicate with?" I didn't know what to do at that point. I thought sure he was going to find out anyway. I didn't feel like going through another meeting for it. So I looked at him and I said, "Lieutenant Commander John McCain."
The North Vietnamese came into the cell. They blindfolded me, took me out into the courtyard. I knew that If they caught someone communicating, the reprisals were very severe.
I have no idea where I'm going. And I'm pushed up into the bed of this dump truck with a blindfold on. The truck started up, and we're out on the streets of Hanoi. I'm beginning to get worried that I might be going out to the jungle again and be put into another cage. I just felt like, well, this is it. It's been a good run, but it's over with. I had no idea where they were taking me, but I knew I was going to be punished. Suddenly, I feel a tapping on my leg.
Through the bottom of my blindfold, I could see that sitting next to me was an American. So I tapped, "I am John McCain. Who are you?"
I realized John McCain is laying alongside of me on the floor of this truck. I couldn't believe it.
He tapped back, "I'm Ernie Brace." I thought, wow, the guy that lived next door to me, the guy who I've still never seen, is sitting next to me. It's just kind of a wonderful moment, knowing that Ernie and I were still together. And I didn't know what treatment we would get, but at least I was going with a comrade. After we arrived at the prison, we were put into different wings. I didn't see Ernie again. They gave us some clothes that were different from our prison garb and put us on buses. We went to the airport. They read off our names, and we walked to a United States transport airplane, got on the airplane, and when the plane left Vietnam and got over the ocean, the pilot announced that we had left Vietnam, and you can imagine there was a certain amount of cheering. And then we were flown home.
Commander John McCain, U.S. Navy.
In March of 1973, I was released. It was the last day of the prisoner exchanges. At this point, I'd been in captivity for 7 years, 10 months, and 7 days.
Mr. Brace, civilian pilot.
Ernie's story is gripping. It's an amazing survival story. And he was one of the most resilient individuals that I have ever encountered in my life. But we had not met face to face until the White House dinner.
I had, for many years, felt what it would be like to meet John face to face for the first time. I felt like he's probably the most important person in the world to me at this point. We looked at each other and said, "I knew we would make it, John," and he just gave me a big hug and said, "We did make it, Ernie. We did."
People that you know best and love most are those that you went through an experience like that together, and I will always cherish being in the company of a genuine American hero.